on today's episode, I am getting to have a part two conversation with somebody, which I'm really, really excited about. We talked so much last time about the early years of our lives that we barely scratched the surface on all the amazing things this fella's done with his musical career. So we realized that we needed to schedule another time to get together, and it's taken a little while for us to line up our calendars, but here we are. We're finally doing it, and I have been looking forward to it ever since we put it down on the calendar. And it's just my musical brother that I've had almost my whole life, and it's just good to see his face, and I can't wait to talk some more. Mr. Tim Hamilton, how are you, buddy?
I'm fine, brother. Good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. We got to catch up a little bit before we started recording, and man, I'm just so happy. Seems like life is just treating you well, man. I'm so happy for you.
Well, you too, man. And God's been good to both of us, and it feels wonderful, just living the dream, both of
That's
us.
better than I deserve. That's how I
Me
feel, you
too.
know.
Me
Yeah,
too.
you know. As we were talking, it sounds like your schedule's about to pick up for the summer.
It is, and I love warm weather, but I hate those outside gigs because I hate being hot, and you know how guitars tend to go way out when you're trying to keep them in tune. And I take a big fan with me to blow on me when I'm playing outside. Sun gets on me, but I love outdoor gigs and do one in the afternoon and one at night. I love those twofers and
Yes.
but yeah, I'll go. I've been out when it's playing when it's 30 degrees out in the wintertime and 100 degrees in the summer. So I love it, man.
I'm the same way. I was wondering when you're talking about having a fan, because I would always carry one too. Do you ever deal with does the fan ever make your amps sound
You
different?
know, it has before it depends on, I usually run it through my power conditioner, but sometimes I'll have to switch plugs or I'll turn it
Mhm.
on low, but you
Yeah.
hear that hum and it's not too bad if it's humming in tune with the
Right.
with the song, but maybe a harmony note, but usually
Right.
mine's way out.
That's great. Oh man, who all are you playing with these days?
Man, I will come play in your living room if you pay me enough. I'll come. I've got about 5 or 6 different bands, sometimes seven. Good buddy of mine, Tommy Townsend, that
Hmm.
still fronts Waymore's Outlaws. Him and Waylon Jennings, big buddies, and Waylon produced an album on him, and Waylon kind of took him under his wing, and he owns a legal moonshine distillery in Blairsville called Granddaddy Mims, and we go up there and play a good bit, and then they just opened a new one in Dawsonville. But man, he sings so good, and he doesn't try to sound like Waylon or anything, but he's got one of Waylon gave him one of those, I think, prototype tellies. So he's got one of those black and white leather covered
Oh,
telly and
cool.
with a Scruggs tuner on the E string.
Hmm.
But he plays good, sings good, and writes good. Shooter Jennings produced something on him a couple of years back. But working with some guys, Babes Bayou, they're from Cartersville. I've known them
Yeah.
since I played. Since I was at Cowboys, I played on their first CD, I think, and great players, great guys. I'm playing with them tomorrow night in Calhoun and Saturday night in Cartersville. So we're doing like
Really.
a town block party, city wide block party, and work with some guys south of Nashville. There's some guys that have been working with '90s country. Everybody's doing that kind of thing. Most of them are, and those are good guys, good pickers and singer, and uh, working with a guy named DJ Beach every other Thursday down in Hiram, and just man, just whoever calls, man, got some session things coming up, and I'm glad people's getting some more money in their pockets because when they do that, they can call me and do some more gigs or
Yes.
cut a CD or whatever, So,
Add the secret weapon to their project by adding steel
well,
guitar to it, you
I
know.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely a weapon of mass destruction, probably.
You know, I guess, I was talking to Mark Mundy about he was playing some gigs with a '90s band too, band doing a lot of '90s country stuff. And I imagine it's the same for you. You're probably getting to play a lot more steel guitar than if you're playing with bands that do current stuff, because
Well,
there's a lot of steel, and Paul Franklin and Brent Mason were all over those records.
they were, and the '90s is when all that stuff came back, because in the '80s, the urban cowboy era, all that stuff kind of took a break. Gary Morris and Lee Greenwood, and I love those guys singing, but they still kind of disappeared,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a pop era for country. But in the '90s, fiddle and steel came back with a passion, with a vengeance, really, and I think in the '90s, all those guys that grew up like I did in the '60s and '70s, they loved all those sounds. So when they got deals and started hitting the road, they wanted their music to emulate what they had fell in love with in those early decades. So I'm glad, and Zach Top is the big thing now,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's I hadn't got to see him live. I know Kevin Alberson. They went to hear him not long ago. They might have seen him a couple of times, but they were live on Facebook, looking at him and listening to him. And man, what a great picker, what a great singer, and he loves fiddle and steel too, and had a great band from what I could hear, and just really they were doing Love Bug.
What?
That Straight had
Mm-hmm.
re-recorded that because it's George Jones' thing, but Straight had a great recut of that, and man, they were playing the parts. Just like the record. So it was good stuff, and
Oh, that's
Kevin was
great.
going wild. I almost couldn't hear Zach Top for Kevin and his wife and whoever was. They were all singing like I would have been too. But
Yes.
it's a great show. But there's a few bands doing those songs. A couple of his songs. So I'm glad to see those on the set. But
Yeah.
Joe Diffie and Brooks and Dunn, and there's just so many great artists in the '90s that had some good music. So yeah, I'm tickled about it.
Yeah. It's funny how those decades kind of swing back and forth between going that pop country politan and then swinging back to traditional and back and forth. And yeah, it kind of in the '90s it kind of went back to it, and then kind of then in the 2000s it did what we all knew it did, and now it's kind of swinging back again.
Well,
It's
they
good.
they always say it'll come back around. It's just
Yeah.
I get worried each time that I won't be young enough to. I'll be too old when it comes back around to tote my steel case into places. Uh,
Well, and to know, and it's for you to be able to go in and do those parts and be honest with how you play them. You don't just play a part to it. You play to the song of it, which you always done as long as I've known you. And I know that's why your phone rings all the time. It's because you show up and you play it the way it's supposed to sound.
well, brother, I appreciate it, and you know that uh, people really don't as good of a musician as you are, and you're one of my favorites. I've told you that, but people don't hear a bass lick and say that's not like the record or that's like the record. But with steel or fiddle or lead guitar or piano, you have to, if you can emulate whoever, and it was more likely Paul Franklin, and there's no way that I would ever say that I could play like Paul Franklin, but I have to try to get close, and I try to, and some of them I get lucky on, but and some of them are in my wheelhouse, and some aren't, but it's really a good feeling when somebody says, "Man, that sounds just like the record, man," and they really dig it, and the people dig it too in the audience. So it feels good. But yeah, you got to play signature stuff, man. You just can't
Mm-hmm.
branch off. Now, if I'm playing fills or if I'm playing a ride, that's not a real signature ride because if you're playing every weekend or every night with a band and playing the same song, unless they just really nail you to the wall about playing the ride exactly the same way every time. I would pull my hair out if I had to play
Yes.
something the same way every time in the same place and on the same song. So it's really, good. And it depends on how I feel every night. I'll do different things if I'm feeling good, and I'll do different things if I'm wanting to get out of there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I've been on some of those gigs as you have that 2 or 3 hours felt like 2 or 3 days, and
It's never good when you look at your watch after the first verse.
after the intro,
That's right. You
yeah,
play the intro and then look down at your watch, like, all right, how long we got left?
yeah, that's right. Only got three
um,
hours left.
Only 3 hours. And we'll talk. I'm gonna ask you a million questions about your time at Cowboys, but I guess leading into that is you're talking about playing the same stuff every night. I'm sure over the years you've had plenty offers, especially I would imagine when you were at Cowboys, people coming through and hearing you play and probably wanted to snatch you up and take you with them. Did you ever have aspirations of going out on the road touring with a major artist or
I did, man, and I had, there was a time I had a bag packed, ready for somebody to call me to go meet a bus, and there was a couple of opportunities that came up when I was at Cowboys, and it wasn't the coming through hearing me and wanting to snatch me up thing. It was, when jobs come open in bands like that, if you meet the musicians in the band and befriend them like I did, and we always had a great time with those guys and made a lot of friends that I've still got today. But when something came up, they didn't put it on a bulletin board. They would tell their boss, "Hey, I know this guy so and so, and he plays this, or we're looking for this." So, and that's the way it would come out. You'd get a call from your buddy in the artist band, and but I was playing 5 nights a week at Cowboys. I had always wanted to play that gig. I never thought I would get it. My buddy Randy Sarles played steel out there for 3 years. We all thought he was just an icon for being there for 3 years at the same house band gig. And when he got a job with a guy on the road, it wasn't a big artist. It was somebody that had just gotten the deal. I can't think of his name now, but um, he recommended me for that job, and went in, and I didn't even audition. I went in and rehearsed with him. He gave me board tapes, and I went over that stuff. And I'd just been divorced the first time. I was back at mom and dad's and had plenty of time to learn stuff, and I walked right into that gig, and it was a fantastic gig, and got to open for so many folks, got to play with some artists when they came through, and but man, I wanted it so bad that when I like being at home, I like sleeping in my bed every night, and I just going on the road. If George Jones would have called me, I would have probably been gone. But some of the folks that called me that wanted me to audition, I, without mentioning names, I just wasn't a fan of the 2 or 3 people that had called that I could have had a chance to audition for. I don't know if I'd have got the gig or not, but um, for me to leave that gig, I would have really had to, if Merle Haggard, George Jones, somebody like that would have called, see you Cowboys. But
yeah.
that never happened. Um, but yeah, it was just a great time and great club. I think it seated 4,000 folks, and I mean, we opened for everybody when they came through, and a
Everybody.
lot of sold out shows, beyond sold out. I mean, more than capacity, but then we played, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was a great gig. Great musicians, though. Most of them were from Texas. They, because we had two clubs, one in Arlington and one in Dallas, that they said were the carbon copies. They built all the clubs to look alike inside. So, but we just had a great time. Great musicians, just played some
Oh
great
yeah.
music, had some good times.
Who all was in the band when you started playing there? Was Jay playing there?
Jay Johnson was there, and Jay was the bass player. He was the band leader, and Jay was Billy Joe Spears' nephew. And
That's
you
right. I
remember
forgot about
"Blanket on
that.
the Ground" and "What I've Got in Mind." She had a lot of those hit songs, and but we would call and talk to Aunt Billy Joe every now and then,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
God bless her. She'd like to drank a little bit, so sometimes she would be feeling no pain when we called. But Jay was there. My buddy Jimmy Cox was on guitar.
Oh
He's with
man.
Montgomery Gentry now, and just getting over some health things. But wish him a speedy recovery. But a guy named Dave Schleisman was on
Oh
keyboards.
yes,
I
man.
get to play with Dave. Now we do some things together with a guy named Scott Thompson. But uh, Keith Tressel came in after Dave and playing drums. We had a guy named Chris Gilreath, a good buddy of mine from Chattanooga that played drums. And then Gary Barnes came in from Texas to play drums. And we had Mike Hines played guitar with us for a while. And then we had several guitar players. My buddy Chris Blackwell came out and played with us and for a long time. And who else?
Jimmy Mouton played.
Jimmy
Trying to
Mouton, yes. How could I forget the old Cajun from
the Raging
Louisiana?
Cajun. Yes.
Yes, and my buddy James David Carter that was on The Voice. He was one of the singers.
Mm-hmm.
Darren was out there singing. We had several girl singers. We would have two male singers and one female singer. And Marta Tyree worked with us. Lisa Biddy worked with us, female singer, and my buddy Eric Key, tall guy. He would do all the Wade Hayes and Tracy Bird and George Strait stuff,
Oh,
and
cool.
Darren Robbins would sing a lot of the stuff. I mean, it was just a great time, and we had a great light show. Had a good light guy and a good sound man, and it was a big time for me. I mean, it was a gravy gig, man. And on Fridays when we would have acts, we would tear down our stuff and the act would set up and we'd set up around them and play one set to open up for them and I'd be done for the night. And if I wanted to stay, I could. If I didn't, I'd go do something else. And it was
Oh,
just
that's cool.
great gig.
Would you guys did they do a weekly rehearsal and y'all learning new tunes,
We
staying
yes,
current?
we got our tapes on Sunday night, and Sunday night was kid night, and or I guess minors night that couldn't get in. I guess
Mm-hmm.
18 and below. But we would get our tapes, and everybody would have a song. We'd learn at least 3 songs a week, maybe 4, but. I'd have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning. And that's when I was playing in Nashville every Tuesday night on Broadway at Roberts. So I was doing that from 6 to 10. So I would do all my stuff on Monday and Monday night. And I'd come back Tuesday night and get up Wednesday and have to go over whatever I was unsure on. But we'd go in Wednesday and Chris, the drummer, or whoever was drumming, would get the beats per minute, and man, he'd click sticks, and we'd go, and we played that stuff just like the record. It was like we were a human jukebox, and the owner didn't want any dead time. He didn't want you talking, the singers talking in between songs, or introducing a song, or saying happy birthday or to anybody. He wanted them out on the dance floor and wanted them drinking and wanted them, we'd play maybe one slow song out of 12 or 13, maybe 14 song set. But they had the sets, Brad. Jay was making them like he would make them in Texas, and they would make them by dances, East Coast, West Coast swing, and shuffle, which we didn't do a lot of 4/4 shuffles, regrettably. But he wanted the graph to kind of bring them up and then kind of level off and then come down again. Then so he had a formula for that, and it was from Texas, but. Had a lot of line dancers, back then, but yeah, everybody thought Randy was something else, being there 3 years, and I was there for 10.
You were there.
So
I was wondering how long you were there. A long
yeah,
time.
it's 9 or 10 years, man, and I hated for it to come to an end, but it just went down, and they sold it, and there's nothing there now, man. There's condos there. They tore that whole shopping center down. The only thing that's there that was there when I was there in the same parking lot was a Hooters
Yep.
restaurant, and it's still there, but everything else is gone. They tore that whole shopping center down and built condos there.
Wow. Yeah, boy. I can just see that place right now, like yesterday. That was I mean, it was an institution of Atlanta country music, right? I mean, it
Well,
was
I mean,
people would come from everywhere.
everybody in Nashville, all the artists and my buddies that I would meet, they'd introduce me as, man, this guy's got the biggest house band, best house band job in Atlanta or in Georgia, the biggest place in Georgia, because they were playing everywhere. And, man, he's, that's how they'd introduce me. He plays still at the biggest place in Georgia. So that was always good to hear. But it was, man, it was just a great time. We had so many artists come in, and we got to, we'd get calls like on a Saturday night that, if we knew Brooks and Dunn was in town doing their, concert or coming through doing their tour, um, they came through one night and they came out, told us they called the manager and told them they were coming out. But Keith Urban was with them, and I got to. Nobody brought their steel player. Tracy Bird, I think, was there one night. But the band guys would go to the hotel. They wouldn't come to a club, But artists, they wanted to, I guess, get a little more exposure, I
Yeah, a
guess.
little more attention.
You know how singers are. So
No,
so
I
they
do.
would, and it would drive people crazy because the place would not be expecting Brooks and Dunn to come out, Keith Urban, Toby Keith, and but I got to play steel with Keith Urban and had a great time. Todd was there that night, my brother. I got to take him back and introduce him to Keith Urban, and
Oh man.
but that was way before everybody had cameras in their phones, so there's not a lot of pictures. There's a few that people had cameras, well, throwaway cameras, but we got to play with Tracy Bird, Singletary. Daryl Singletary came through with some golfing buddies one time, and there's a video of that I've got that I got to sing with Daryl that night. We did Makeup and Faded Blue Jeans, and
Oh man.
he said who's going to do Merle's part, and I had introduced the band to that CD, all those cover tunes that he had did,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a couple of those tunes off that CD. So when he came in, he said, well, do y'all want to do Too Much Fun? And, we said, no, we can do a couple off of your last CD. So we came out and we did Love's Gonna Live Here and Makeup and Faded Blue Jeans. And I sang Merle's part with the singer that sang it in our band. So I got to sing with Singletary.
Oh
And
man.
but Mike Hines was there at that time, and we played those parts, man, just like it. But Tracy Lawrence came out one night. We got to play with him, and T. Graham Brown came out. Mark Colley came in one night
Really?
looking like a skeleton, man. He had lost a bunch of weight and pale, but got up and sang, and we did a couple with him, and I got to play with Tracy Bird one night, do some things with Tracy, and
Wow.
it was just really really cool, man, and got to open for so many people out there, man. I just loved it.
You do this long enough that there comes a time where you kind of don't feel starstruck anymore. You realize that they're human beings just like you are, and they're, to a certain degree, they're trying to make a living like you are, and everything. But I've had a few moments where like I was legitimately like taken aback, like I can't believe I'm even breathing the same oxygen as some of these people right now. It's kind of crazy, the opportunities that you probably had over the years.
Well, it I've always been a fan. I'll always be a fan. And when I got to play, and early on when I was playing my first house band job in Atlanta at a place called Southern Comfort off Marlin Avenue, that was my first house band job. I got to play with Narvel Felts, play a whole show with Narvel Felts, a whole show with Razzie Bailey, and
Really?
yeah, man, and see, I grew up watching those guys on Hee Haw, laying in
Sure.
my living room floor with mom and dad and my brother and us watching Hee Haw on Saturday nights, and got to back those guys and play steel with them, and man, it was just so cool. But I got to play with Doug Stone at a on a pilot show they were doing at the Wild Horse Saloon. They were trying to do a show. Um, they had people that had lost their deals, I'll say, but Doug Stone, Paulette Carlson, and Wade Hayes was on the show, and they had three up and coming singers that were judging them on some of their old songs. They were trying kind of doing a reverse thing. So I got to play with Doug Stone and Paulette Carlson and Wade Hayes and man, it was just, I don't know, man, it was just really cool. And I got to play with Toby Keith one night, some songs, and Tommy Cash. got to play with Tommy for a whole show out in Milledgeville at my buddy Ronnie Pittman's club out
Mm-hmm.
there, and but Montgomery Gentry, got to play with them guys 2 or 3 songs one night when
Man,
they came in,
yeah.
but man, it you know I still get that way too. As much as I've been around and as much as music that God has blessed me to be able to play, I still appreciate men and women that can still play and sing. Wade Hayes is one of those guys. Wade, I've done a couple of things with him at not long ago, and Wade is still singing great, still playing great. And what gets me is he plays those guitar fills while he's singing. In
Yeah.
studio, we all know that studio, you overdub stuff and you don't play and sing at the same time. Most people don't, but he plays all those guitar parts, man, while he's singing, and just a cool cat. But he still uh, does so good. Andy Griggs, got to play with Andy. Andy, great singer. I mean,
Great singer.
oh yeah, man, and Travis Tritt came in the club one night for his birthday party, and the manager had told us they'd call like a week or two before the birthday party. His wife did, and they reserved the VIP up in the other side of the club, other end of the club. And the manager said, "Well, what songs do y'all know of Travis's?" And we said, "Well, he won't want to get up and sing with us, because we'd heard some stories about Travis, and you know how you hear stories about people." And so he said, "Well, in case he does, can y'all do something?" We said, "Yeah." So we were up playing our first set, and we saw this big entourage come in the back, and they went up to the top of the VIP. So we didn't think anything of it. So we just started. So we saw them out on the balcony watching us. And so we went backstage, and Bob, the manager, came back and said, "Travis Tritt wants to play with y'all." We said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he wants to sing with y'all." So he brought him back. And Brad, he had on these brown leather pants, brown suede shirt. Man, he looked just so cool, man. And I mean, he shook each of our hands. He said, "Enjoyed your steel playing, enjoyed your guitar." He knew what each of us did.
Okay, that's
So
cool.
Jay, oh, it was. And Jay said, "Well, we can do this and this." And they were his songs. He said, "I don't want to do my songs." So he wanted to do Miami, Miami, I think, or something like that. He wanted to do some cool stuff, and I think we did an Allman Brothers song too. But he got a guitar off the wall and did some things with us. And he said, "I want you to play here, and piano player, I want you to do this." And man, I've got some good pictures of him on stage with us and some video. I set up my video camera that night and got him. I've got all that on video. But it was just cool, and he came in the next year, and he didn't get up with us that time, but I had him sign a picture that I had made with him, me and Jay and Chris Blackwell, and had him sign it, and I've got it someplace. But he was a cool cat, man. He was just great time. But it was
Yeah.
precious memories, man.
Yeah, he probably enjoyed getting to be who he is, but not having to do the stuff that everybody always hears him sing. It probably made him. He probably enjoyed just getting to sing some other songs, instead of the
Well, and it was
90-minute
cool,
set that he
and
always does.
yeah, and we all know how that is. We all got songs that we would rather play than the songs we have to play,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was a memorable night.
Yeah. Who was that? So you talk about Southern Comfort. I've only played there a handful of times over the years, but
I
I'll never
hate you.
forget it.
I hate you had to, brother.
It's right there. Isn't there a strip club behind it? Is that the place I'm
I have
thinking
no
of?
knowledge of that,
No
Brad.
knowledge. Yeah,
No
we'll edit
knowledge
that
of
out.
that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
I know. Yes, and the big. Think TA truck stop was across the
yep.
street, but Rio Vista was across the street. Now I've frequented that
Oh,
place
some
every.
catfish, baby.
I tell you, and great hush puppies,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably why I'm near death now. Probably all that oil and
Yeah.
fat from those hush puppies and fries. But um, great place to play. But man, it was open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
and a buddy of mine had worked a session with me, and they needed a steel player, and I went out and auditioned, and I thought we would be done like at 11 o'clock. And then he said, well, we've got one more set. So I came back and I thought we'd be done that. We weren't done. I mean, it was a long night. It was like to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was a long time, but people loved it. And we were playing great old country music. My buddy Brett Short played guitar.
Oh, wow.
Guy named
Yes.
Greg Humphrey. Greg Humphrey played piano. Fletcher Lawson played drums. The band leader was Billy D. Donahue. Billy had played with Johnny Paycheck, Vern Gosden. He'd played out at Gillies in Pasadena. Played with a bunch of folks, man, and just hardened musician, knew 1,000 songs, and great bass player, great singer. And all of us sang except Fletcher. And we would go around and do 2 songs apiece. We'd do if the last guy ended with a fast one, we'd do a slow one, and vice versa. That's how we would do it. But was getting to sing, and Billy had called me. Real tough dude, man. Real looked like he would kill you. I mean, he just tough looking guy. And he called me that next day, and said, you've got the job if you want it. Said, we really like you. Said, how do you know all those old songs? Because they were doing a bunch. I said, well, me and my dad. I said, my dad loves country music, and I love all those songs. And he said, well, you're hired. And but I don't know, man. It was the kind of gig that he turned. We were playing one night. I was there like might have been my first week, maybe second week, and it was like on a Saturday night. Dance floor was full. We were doing a ballad. The girl singer was up, and there was a fight that broke out on the dance floor. Some guy broke a bottle and cut a guy's arm on the dance floor, and we were 5 or 6 feet high on the bandstand, so didn't worry about anybody getting us. But the 2 bouncers they rushed to that. Well, at the same time, a fight broke out in the middle of the club, and then a fight broke out back in the pool room. So like 3 fights that
Oh, my
happened within
gosh.
seconds of each other. So the bouncers got it under control. Some customers helped them, but we didn't stop playing. So we just kept playing. So Billy turned around. The band leader told us, he said, if they wouldn't have been able to get that under control, he said, we would have had to stop playing and go help them. Well, I'm just a kid, man. I just started playing in my first house band job down here in this asphalt jungle, and already scared, to death about trying to play everything right, let alone having to fight. So I might have defended myself if somebody came up on the bandstand and was, trying to hurt me or something. But so after that night, I told Billy, I said, Billy, and I can't believe I told him. I said, Billy, I said, man, I didn't sign up to be a bouncer out here. I said, I signed up to play steel, and that's all I'm doing. And I said, man, if I've got to, if I've got to be security too, man, I won't. I don't have any interest in that. And he told me months after that, he said, I really respected you for standing up to me and telling me that. And I said, well, I'm just, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Not a fighter.
I don't care nothing about it. But he was used to that in Texas. That was the kind of things that they did, and anywhere that they played. He told us one night. He said, I was playing with Vern Gosden, and he said before the curtain went up, he said about every night Vern would look back at us and say, "Boys, play like this is your last night, because it very well may be."
And I've heard stories about Vern. Boy,
Yeah.
he had quite a life. Well, and good for you for advocating for yourself, because of course, worst case scenario, something bad could happen to you. Who knows what somebody might have out there, or even let's say you break your hand and then you're out of work for however long. Then there's no money coming in.
I broke my foot out there one night getting off stage. We were on a riser, and I had just tuned my steel, and I had hopped over the owner's amp, George F. Jones. He would get up and play with us, and he had a little Roland Jazz Chorus amp, and my boot heel caught his amp, and when I hit the stage, my right foot twisted on me, my ankle. So it kind of embarrassed me. It hurt my pride more than anything because people were looking at me. So I got off stage and we came back up and do the set, and I felt my boot tightening up on me on my volume pedal foot, and we got down, and I had to get help to get down. And there was an off-duty paramedic had come in there to have some drinks when he got off his shift, and I had my black and white. I call them black and white Marty Stewart boots, but they looked like something Marty would wear. And they were trying to get it off, man, and I was just dying in pain. And he said, "Well, we can cut it off." I said, "You're not cutting my boots off." So I let him get it off, but I had it looked like a baseball on the side of my foot, and he put a splint on it, and I had a hairline break in. But I played the rest of the night, man. I played the rest of that, like three more sets that night. If it would have been on my pedal foot, my left foot, I wouldn't have been able to roll my foot to play. But since it
Yes.
was a volume pedal, I just went back and forth. But yeah, I went the next morning and had a hairline break in it. So,
Oh my gosh.
and that's when I started playing music for a living, and doing that as my only job because my wife didn't want me to quit my day job. I was driving a forklift in the daytime at a warehouse, and doing that, and then going to play at night, and then coming home, and I was going to sleep, coming home, and I was just dragging. So when I broke my foot, I took a leave of absence from my day job, and man, did it feel good to sleep in the daytime and then go play at night. So the playing, that's when playing music won out over anything. And
Hmm.
that's when my first marriage went down the drain
Went down.
too. So, um, but yeah,
I broke my foot and she broke my heart. You
that's right.
know.
That's a country song right there. Yeah.
It sure is. It sure,
Yeah.
man. I know exact that those steep steps that come off the stage right there by the front door. Yeah, I know what you're talking about,
Well,
man.
it's the kind of place they told me before I started working here. It was the kind of place if you didn't have a gun or knife when you came in, they gave you
They
one
give you
type deal. And it's a bad thing, man. A couple of years after I left, the guy that ran the parking lot, he was like security in the parking lot, and he really wasn't all there, but he was a good cat, and he ran the parking lot. But he carried like a 38 pistol with him to kind of have
hmm
as protection. And somebody took it away from him one night and shot him and killed him out there in the parking lot, and
What?
he got killed. Yeah, man. And then there was one night I was working down there, and somebody got hit. A semi truck hit him in the highway there and killed him right there between uh, in between the club and the truck stop. So man, it was dangerous place. Brett Short, Brett Short's. Somebody asked Brett's dad where Brett was working, and or no, Brett's dad's friend asked Brett one time. He said, "So where are you playing at now, or where are you working at now?" He said, "Down off Moreland Avenue." He said, "I'm a tail gunner on a milk truck." But I mean, it was just a rough part of town, man. Just a bad part of town, and mom and dad was worried me working out there, but everybody liked me. I got along with all the folks and all the patrons, and we just played a lot of good music, made a lot of great friends out there, man. Just a lot of old South Side pickers and musicians and singers, and man, and still got some of those friends today that are still
Yeah.
living from that time.
Did you know? As you're talking about Southside players, I'm thinking about Mike Johnson and all those guys and Johnny B. And did you? How long have you known those guys?
Well, I knew of Mike's dad, for years.
Ken, yeah.
Yes, and because Ken had played, he was playing with a buddy of my dad's that dad brought to Atlanta when dad was young, probably before I was born. A guy named Paul Blaylock. And they called him Bud Blaylock, but he played steel. And married to a Hawaiian woman, and Bud might have been Hawaiian. I don't know if he was or not, but she would come and get him out of the clubs a lot of times, and a lot of funny stories about those. But I knew Jimmy Garman that was playing down there because those guys played in Loganville for
Oh yes,
so long, and
Howard and
and
Jimmy.
oh, Howard, love Howard, just lost Howard not long ago, and
Hmm.
but Jimmy still fishing and doing good and still playing and singing good when we have some things and we get him up play and sing. We just Gerald Daughtry, you knew Gerald, didn't you?
Oh,
Sang
yes.
out there with them for years. Lost Gerald here not long ago, but just so many great players from the South Side. Sammy Tucker and Sammy's son Joe played at Southern Comfort, but Howard and Jimmy and my buddy Charlie Vaughn that played steel, Bill Benton that played bass guitar. They all worked at the Golden Nugget out there in Atlanta. And That's where Jody Payne was working when Willie Nelson came through, and Willie hired Jody from that band. And
Really?
Jody went on to bigger and better things with Willie and married, dang it, I went blank. Girl that had Take the Ribbon from Your Hair, Help Me Make It Through the Night. I know her name just as well as I know mine.
Yes.
Sammy Smith.
Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith. Yep.
Jody married Sammy, but I just met a lot of those guys, because when I was working at Cowboys, we did a jam every Wednesday, and then we moved it to Thursday. Did it at a pawn shop in
That's
Kennesaw. We
right.
call it the
Yeah.
Pawn Shop Pickers. But me and Tommy Dodd and Jimmy Williams, my buddy Jerry Davis that ran a car lot down there, great singer, and they would come up there. And my buddy Woody Lefford that played guitar, Lowell
Oh,
Cook played
Woody.
bass. We just Kenny, dang it, played drums. We had so many guys come in there and play, and people would come in, but they would just let a certain few folks in and people they knew, but man, because it was a pawn shop music store, so I mean, you didn't have a lot of room in there, but we just
Hmm.
had so much fun, man. Ray McDonald, a buddy of mine, his son Randy McDonald was there a lot, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
just had so much fun. A buddy of mine, Gary Reagan, would come in and sing a lot, and
Did Jerry
Stephen
Braswell
Allen
play
Jones
there?
would come. Jerry Braswell would play. He came in a couple of times and played. I don't know why Jerry didn't come up there a lot. Now, when they moved that jam out to Marietta, Jerry was playing there every time, and I didn't go to that one. That's the one Tommy was playing on all the time.
Hmm.
I went one time. Tommy couldn't make it, and they called me out, and I got to do it. But I saw a lot of those old folks that used to come to the pawn shop. But just a great time, man. And then I'd stay there 3 or 4 hours, and then go up to the club and play all night, and then go home. But I love the time at the pawn shop sometimes better than going up to Cowboys and doing my gig.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I've talked about it on here a lot, and I'm sure you feel the same way of how how lucky we've been through the years to get this education from these older players that just poured into us, sharing the stage, not being egotistical about anything or being territorial about it, just sharing their knowledge about this music that we all love playing together. It's pretty amazing.
Well, Chief Childers that we both loved, Doyle Barker that we both loved, and your uncle J.B. Roper. I mean, guys like that. JB didn't go and play in bands and things, but JB taught me so much about music, and you just learned a lot around those folks. They would look at you and they wouldn't have to say anything. And JB, he would tell you what was on his mind, but he wouldn't say a cross word to you, but you would know what he was talking about.
Yes.
But Chief Childers, all those guys that we know and love, man. I mean, playing with Doyle Barker, if you couldn't learn something from Doyle Barker, you can't learn anything. I mean,
Yeah.
if not anything else, to learn when to end a song when he stuck his foot out, and you knew he was fixing to end the song when he stuck
Yeah.
that foot out. And I got to play, your dad. We did a couple of those things with your dad, and I always learned something from Ricky too, man. Ricky just great player, great singer, and I miss all those folks. And I can, I can go back and really, I mean, it's invaluable lessons. It's something that you can't learn in school. You can't take a course in it. I mean, it's just you play at people's houses, you play at community centers, you play at churches, fellowship halls, um, wherever. And I mean, it was that kind of stuff that got me ready for. I mean, playing up at Hiawassee. I mean, I'm talking to a guy that got up there in front of 4 or 5 thousand people when you were how old?
I was 5 years old the first time I
Right.
sang there. Yeah.
So I mean, if you can't now, I played up there. I think when I was 12. You beat me by a while,
Mm.
but me and Todd both. Todd played drums on that thing, and but Dad took a couple of his older friends, and me and Todd were less nervous than the older guys were, and but
Yeah.
we were just chomping at the bit. But that was just like the greatest way to get you ready for that. I mean, once you play for that kind of crowd, playing in front of crowds don't bother me. I could
Yeah.
play in front of 10,000 people right now and it would not bother me. But if you put me at a steel guitar show with Randy Beavers and John Huey when he was alive and some of those guys, I could thread a sewing machine and it running because it's a different situation. It's a
Yeah.
different thing. But I love the end up at the Mountain Center in Gainesville when I was playing
Yes.
gospel music. I mean, that place held more than Cowboys did. And I
Hmm.
played up there a lot of times with Liberty Quartet with Gerald and those guys and there's nothing like a spotlight shining on you and you playing a little break and people clapping and cheering. And man, I mean, it's the ultimate high, man. I don't do drugs, but I mean, it's just the ultimate high, and it just like pouring fire on gas on a fire, man. It just really just overtook me.
Yeah.
I
There's
still
no
love it.
feeling. I'm the same way. I still like it. You, you're exactly right. And those opportunities I'm glad I was too young and maybe too dumb and inexperienced to realize that I probably should have been more terrified than I probably was back then. It's like
Well, but
I didn't realize it and just did it.
all that stuff got you ready for the Ed McMahon thing. See,
That's right. That's
and
exactly right.
Star Search, right?
Yep,
Was
that's
it?
it.
And I mean, who can say that? I mean, I don't know anybody. I knew a guy that was on Price is Right one time, one of the contestants. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm, I know famous people, man. I'm acquainted with famous folks.
Man, I don't know about I'll never forget I was about to walk out on stage and the stage manager said, "Now don't be too nervous. Only a couple of million people will see this." I was 12 years old.
Did you kick him in the shin after he said that?
Man, I was too young to say what I wanted to say
Right,
to
right.
him,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
probably shouldn't say it on this podcast. But yeah, I was not too happy. I was already nervous enough, and that did not help at all. And I'm sure in his mind he's thinking, "Watch, I'm going to mess with this little kid before he goes out on stage," and it worked because
Well,
I was pretty terrified.
I mean, hey, I still get, I still get a little nervous when I go out, and I think a little nervous keeps me grounded,
Hmm.
especially when I get to play with good players. And we talked about it the last time we talked, the last time we played with Across the Wide, and I passed that amphitheater yesterday going to Sam's Club, and I thought of us playing down in that hole, and great time we had. The crowd was off because the rain had just ended that morning, but I was a little, but it's a happy nervous. It's a nervous that I'm just nervous about my own instrument and about my own parts. I'm not nervous about the singer forgetting something, the bass player forgetting something, the drummer counting off something too fast or slow. That's the kind of things I love, just to worry about what I've got to do and
Hmm.
what I've got to pull off. And that's the only thing that was on my mind that night when we played, the
Yeah.
last time we got to play.
I heard it said that if you're nervous, it just means that you care, and that's it. You just care,
I
man.
do. I do, man. Yeah, yeah.
That's it. I was going to ask you. You talked about it earlier about playing that gig in Nashville every week. Where what you said you at Roberts? Is that where you said you were
At
playing?
Roberts, me and a girl I was dating, we were going up there, and it's when I was working at Southern Comfort. She was a singer that I met at Southern Comfort. We started dating, but she's really good singer, like a blues singer. And so we would go up and we would go to Barber's. That's when Barber's was in the alley still open, Skulls. But we would go down Broadway, and Wolfie's was open then. Of course, Tootsie's, Roberts. But we would go, and what I would do is we would go up and just watch bands and listen to them. And they would notice us out there watching them. And we would kind of befriend the pickers in the band, and I would ask them if they would get my girlfriend up to sing. She was a pretty good singer, so I had her learn stuff like "Don't Touch Me" and some things that I knew bands loved to play up there. I didn't want her to do Broken Wing and Crazy like every other girl singer did
Uh-huh.
when they got up with them and not know the key. I taught her, you got to know your keys to tell folks. And so she would do that. And then she would tell them, hey, my boyfriend sings. So I would get up and do, Heartaches by the Number, or, Pick Me Up on Your Way Down, something like that I love to play, and I knew they did too. So every time that we would come in, then they would get us up, and they would get me up to play steel because they found out I played steel. So that's how I got the job at Roberts. Guy recommended me for that, and I was playing with a girl named Kimberly Williams. She was from Mesquite, Texas, and got to play some with Kenny Vaughn,
Oh,
Marty's
cool.
guitar player. When Kenny could make it, Kenny had a lot of calls that were wanting him to go play. So it might be an hour or two before the gig, he would call and tell her he couldn't do it. So we'd have to scrounge around and get a guitar player, and but got to play with some great bass players. Got to play with the guy that played bass for the Stray Cats. I can't think of his name, but got to play with the guy that played bass with Emmylou Harris and the trio when they were doing some things, and got to play with several drummers, great drummers there in town, and Loretta Lynn's drummer was one of them. But my buddy Scott Coney, great guitar player. Um, Rod, dang it, I can't believe I can't remember Rod's last name, but he's moved now, but great guitar player, and she sang great, and I got to sing some with her, and she would let me sing one or two solos, but we just had a great time, man. And it one night we didn't have a guitar player. Kenny didn't show up, and we couldn't find one, and we played, and I was just playing. I felt like all the time I was introing songs, filling songs, and writing. So we got a little break, and I went to the bathroom, and I looked out, and Jimmy Orlander, Diamond Rio's guitar player, sitting there. He said, "Man, I really enjoy what you're doing." I said, "Man," I said, "Why don't you have you got your rig with you? Why don't you?" He said, "No, I don't." I said, "Man, I wish you did." But he told me, he said, "Man, you sound great." And I said, "Man, ain't it too much?" He said, "No." He said, "You're talking to a Telecaster player with a B bender." He said it sounded like I was home. I said, "Well, all right, man." So,
All
but
right.
yeah, it was a great gig, and you'd have people come in like that, man. You didn't know who was going to come in to hear you up
Hmm.
there, and it was a great gig. I had a great time up there.
Yeah, golly, just the bands that played at Roberts. I just think about all those people like through the Don Kelly band through the years, all
Let's see, that's who I
those
went up there
players.
hearing. Dad was a big Don Kelly fan, and that's how I first time I saw and heard Johnny Highland play guitar, and Don just had such a great band. Which Brent Mason played in that band, I think, before Johnny came along, before Brent Mason went crazy big up there. But Don Kelly broke a lot of guys in and really started them off. But what a great band! Dad loved that band, and we would go up there and hear them. I've got that CD that they cut here somewhere. Just some great picking, and Don Don's still living. I think I heard an interview on him not long ago on Facebook, but he's retired now and living a good life.
Man, the players that, especially guitar players that have come through that band through the years. I mean, It's unbelievable who all is has played in that. The first time I ever heard them was when Johnny Highland was with them, and I just stood there like, what is happening right now that I'm hearing? It was
Well, and
unbelievable.
it was so crazy. And I think Red Folkart played with him
Mm-hmm.
too. And we when I was playing at Southern Comfort, Billy D, the bass player, he came in one night and he said, "My buddy Red got the job with Merle Haggard," and he said they were playing Skulls because that's where they found Billy, the owner of the club down in Atlanta. Heard Billy and Red and a drummer. They had a little 3-piece combo, and they hired Billy to come down. So I don't know who they got after Billy left to play bass, but the strangers would come in to hear Red, and so he got the job with Haggard. So Billy told us that. So the entire first set, we did nothing but Haggard songs. We sang nothing but Haggard songs in kind of honor of Red getting the gig, and we didn't know Red. So we went out to the payphone in front of the club, and Billy called Red, and we all got to talk to him and say congratulations to him.
Oh man.
And he sent all of us an autographed copy of his CD, the first CD he did, Tellywhacker. And he
Yep.
he sent all of us an autographed copy. And when I got to open for Merle at Cowboys, Red was playing with him, and I asked Red about that. He said, "Man, I remember it. I remember
Oh
y'all calling
man.
me." So, but yeah, Don, just great. And those clubs, they want you dancing, man. The club owners want them dancing and want them drinking, and they don't want you taking breaks. They do not. And I played up there one night. I had done mine from 6 to 10, and I was coming back home, and the guy Jesse, I can't think of his last name. He was part owner of Roberts, and he had a band called Brazil Billy, and he was a singer. And he said, "Man, I like your steel playing." He said, "Will you play with me next shift from 10 to 2?" And I said, "Well, yeah." So we started playing, and we played, and we played, and we played, and we played, and we played. And man, I am dying to go to the bathroom. I mean, dying. And he broke a string on his guitar, on his acoustic guitar. He said, "We're going to take a little break here for me to put this string on." And he said, "But we're going to get started right after I do it." Well, man, I ran almost to the bathroom and had to fight my way through the crowd. Used the bathroom, came back, got my picks on, and the drummer was counting off the first song that we were going. I mean, man, he did. I mean, he was going to take no breaks. That was the only little break we took. We played 4 hours straight.
Unbelievable.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, he's part owner, so I mean, but people are swing dance. They had a little dance floor, but man, people are just crammed in there, and tourists would come in, and you'd have them standing in there for 15 or 20 minutes, and then in between songs, they would walk out, and another crowd would come in, and
Hmm.
that's what you were playing to. But man, they'd pass the tip bucket, have a girl or somebody pass it, and when a new crowd would come in, man, made great tips, and I made great money that night that I worked that double. But man, was I dragging because
Woo.
you lose an hour when you come back home. I always gained an hour going up, but I always lost an hour coming back. So Wednesday was always rough for me when I had to go to rehearsal Cowboys.
Oh man, that's a long day. That's a
But
long
man,
day
it
at the
was a great
office.
time. And you could go down Broadway in your car those times, and this is late '90s. Roll down your window, and on both sides of the street, you'd hear Merle Haggard songs, George Jones songs, Conway Twitty stuff. You'd hear all that. Now, man, they tell me it's not like that now. That it's
Yeah, I've
you
had a
got to
few
go to
people
certain
on here.
places to kind of hear it.
Yeah, I've had a few people on here that still play up there a lot, and just talk about how wacky it is playing on Broadway now, and how horrible the load ends are, and
Oh,
it's
it used to be bad for me. I mean, they wouldn't let you. The police wouldn't let you stay parked for long, and I had a friend, a waitress that was working there at Roberts, and she would let me load in my stuff early, and I'd put it in a little area out of the way, and I'd get there early and then go out to my buddy's steel guitar shop, Bobby Seymour's shop, and spend the day with him and go eat lunch with him, and then I'd come back and park my car and then come up there and play or set up and play. But yeah, they were awful hard on you, and it was panhandlers. And then it was like $20 to park. I hated that, but now it's like 40 or $50 to park.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, but if you go out to Music Valley Drive, and I've got a few buddies that play out there, Steve Henson and LD Wayne, and guys that play out there at the scoreboard. Joe Spivey plays fiddle out there that played on Seminole Wind, um, dang it, what's his
Is,
name?
is that out where the is that out near the Palace? Where am I
Yeah,
thinking
it's
out of?
right behind Nashville Palace.
Yeah.
And you can go to Nashville Palace. You can go behind Nashville Palace, just walk in the parking lot and go to the scoreboard. And then Music City Bar and Grill is there at the end of that shopping center there. So those three places are right in that parking lot. And man, you talking about good country music. Man, they are playing it. Becky Henson, Steve Henson's wife, and my buddy Rusty Danmeyer that was out with playing steel with Alan Jackson on his last tour. He plays steel there, and that Brent Mason's brother, Randy Mason, great
Oh
drummer, good
yes.
singer. Worked with Jimmy C. Newman, worked with Haggard, worked with a bunch of folks. He plays drums with Becky, and man, they may play a afternoon thing out there. They may play at night, and it's just that's where we go when we go out
Yeah.
there. There's some restaurants there that we love, but we don't go to Broadway anymore. It's just too
No.
much of a jungle, man. Madhouse.
Country music is alive and well. You may just have to look for it a little more than you
Oh
used
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, we used to go to the Palace when I was a kid. I couldn't tell you the last time I've been in there. I sang in there quite a few times when I was a kid. It was a cool place.
The first time I went in there, I was married the first time, and we were going to Opryland, but I wanted to go hear some country music. And it's before social media, so you just had to ask people where good country music was. So we went to the Palace, and they had a breakfast show. Dale Reeves was out there doing a breakfast show. So we're sitting there eating breakfast from a buffet and listening to Dale Reeves doing a do 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 do. And man, I'm in heaven, man. I couldn't even eat. I couldn't even
Yes.
eat, and got to meet him, got a picture with him after, and man, it was just so cool. And then got to meet Mike Snyder out at Opryland. Mike Snyder was out there playing, but there was a place out there. I can't think of the name of it now, but a guy named Ron Sweet was singing. They had a great band out there that night, and Gabe's. It was off of man, I used to know all these streets, man, and everything. I hadn't been up there in a while, but great country music. Gene Shepard, steel player, was out there that night, and it was the kind of place you'd go in and you had to, if you wanted to sing with the band, you'd put your name on a clipboard, and they would call you up, and you'd get to sing a couple of songs with the band,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
yeah, you just couldn't get up and just ask the band to sing, but they'd get you up, but yeah, there was a lot of places like that then, but it's not as much now.
Not as much now. I sang at the Palace one night when I was a kid, and I recognized him because I remember seeing him, I think, on CMT. There were two dudes sitting at a table, and the guy spoke, and we walked out with him, and it was Vince Gill. This was back when he had like
Come on,
Cinderella. Yeah,
man.
this was really early on, just before When I Call Your Name. It was before that, but he was
Right,
there.
right.
And I still remember he got in a little like 280Z and drove away that night. And I remember looking at my parents and was like, "That's Vince Gill. He's pretty awesome." Yeah,
And
that's
he
where I
was
met Bruce
awesome.
Boughton. He
Oh,
was a
really?
sweetheart. Yeah, I met Boughton there. He was playing at the Palace when I met him.
I hadn't
He had
got to
just
meet Bruce.
he had just come off the road with Ricky
Man, what a
when
player.
we met.
I hope I can meet him one day, but yeah, great picker. Well,
Great
they
player.
said
And
Randy Travis worked up there as a cook
yeah, back in the
before he,
80s.
yeah. And see, I was watching that show on Nashville Network, You Can Be a Star, that Jim Ed
Mm-hmm.
Brown hosted. And it had Bill Anderson's band, the Pole Folks band, backing
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And Randy Travis sang on that, and he lost. He didn't win. Three people would come out and sang, and they had three judges. But but yeah, man, it's a great place. And they made that stage bigger in the small room in the Nashville Palace. had the small room, then you had the big room. Well, now they made that small room bigger, so the stage, I mean, and the
Mm-hmm.
stage is bigger, but they still have great shows up there in that big room, and I love going. But that's where we hang out, is in that area there. We don't
In
go to
that
Broadway
area.
anymore, and yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just so congested, and there's so much traffic trying to get around there, and I just I don't have enough time or patience in my life anymore to deal with that.
well,
I
I
guess
don't
I'm
either.
too old
And
or something, but
well, no, I mean, it's just even when I was playing there, I dreaded going up, even though I had a system worked out, but I still dreaded going up there, and it was murder to get up there. Really, the thing I dreaded most was going through Chattanooga. They were always
mhm.
road construction through Chattanooga, and it was awful. I think it's not as bad now, but man, it was a nightmare back then.
I went to Belmont in the 1990s, and they were doing road construction in the same spot in Chattanooga that they are
Right.
now.
Yeah.
I'm like they're making a career out of widening this little 2 mile stretch of 24.
Well, I tell you, I hope some guys got some good retirement off of it, because I
So
about
too.
lost my religion several times sitting in that traffic.
I'm, I'm there with you, buddy. Oh my gosh, worst traffic I've ever sat in
And
my
then,
life was
going up
tonight.
and going up Mont Eagle and coming down Mont Eagle, man, it just
Mm-hmm.
that it was funny story at Cowboys. I was married the second time, and I was living right up there in Hiawassee. I mean, we were over the line in Warren, North Carolina. I mean, it was just a mile or two over the line in North Carolina from Hiawassee there, and we called it Germ night, but it was the night where we'd have people get up to sing with us, open mic night. And I liked it, but man, you just had folks that, bless their hearts, they should have just stayed in the shower and sang in the
Mm-hmm.
shower. But they would get up and sing with us. And we had a little, it was in the winter, so we had a little snow and ice storm come through. And I could get out of the driveway, but I called Jay that night. I said, Jay, I said, I'm iced in. I said, I can't get out the driveway. I said, I'm just, we live on a road that they hadn't salted, and I really don't think I'm going to be into work tonight. He said, Tim, that's fine. He said, you know how dead it is? And he said, we hate it, but we'll make it without you. I said, okay. So like an hour after they started, my phone rang, and I said, hello. And this guy said, hello, Tim. He said, where are you? I said, I'm home. I said, who is this? He said, this is Jack Green. He said, I'm at Cowboys. And he said, I'm wondering where you are.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
heard Jay laughing. And when he said Jack Green, then I recognized his voice. I said, what are you doing there? I don't know Jack Green. I knew who Jack Green
Mm-mm.
was, but I didn't know him. And I knew he didn't know me. I said, what are you doing there? He said, we were coming from Florida going back to Nashville. And he said, they closed Mont Eagle, and said, we had heard they closed Mont Eagle. So we saw this club, and we pulled in here, and Jack Green got up and did 3 songs with the band. Walking on New Grass, There Goes My Everything. And man, I could have just jumped off my house. And man, I would have loved to
Unbelievable.
got to play with Jack Green. And the only night I played hooky from work, and Jack Green came in and sang. And it serves me right. I mean, it's the Lord saying, you shouldn't have lied. You should have went to work.
You should have done it, but man, Jack Green. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
just
and I've got one of Jack's suits. My buddy Tracy Pitcox that has the Heart of Texas records in Brady, Texas. He goes to these auctions and buys lots of things, and country stars auctions and things. And he's a DJ in Brady, knows everybody and music for 20, 30 years. And so one of the times we were there 4 or 5 years ago, he had some clothes from stars that they had, sold at these auctions. And I bought a suit. It's like $10. Missy said, you can't wear that, can you? I said, no. Why are you getting it? I said, it's Jack Green's
it's
suit.
he sang
So I've
songs
got
in
it.
that suit.
I've got it in the closet in there, Jack Green's suit.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. The singers that he has influenced over the years. I mean,
Oh man.
myself being one of them.
Oh,
What
of
a
course.
singer. Man, oh man, oh man, what a singer.
Well, he was a
Man, that's
drummer, you know. Ernest
guess
hired
right.
him to be his drummer. Didn't know how to play drums, I think, but yeah, he was a Georgia boy. He was from down here, so
I think about all those country singers over the years that got their start playing instruments in other singers' bands like Johnny Paycheck and people like that. It's pretty
oh
amazing.
man, Roger Miller,
Yeah, right. That's
Johnny
right.
Bush. Johnny Bush was a drummer, and Daryl McCall was a bass player and singer, and Willie Nelson played bass, I think, in Ray Price's band
He
for a
did.
while
Yeah.
too, and Johnny Rodriguez that we just lost
Oh man, I
last
know.
week played bass with Tom T. Hall and would open the shows with Tom, and I met that rascal about 5 years ago. I put a picture of me and him on Facebook the Sunday after he passed, and put a little thing on there, that a little memory from that meeting. But man, yeah, what legends. I mean, just I I know there's country music being made. I just don't think that it will ever be like it was in the '60s and '70s. I hate to say that, but
No, I'm
it's kind of
with
like the
you on it.
Beatles, kind of like somebody doing stuff like the Beatles used to do, and anybody like that, Elvis. I mean, you just won't have any other people like that. I don't think.
No, I agree. There, it will all people will always try to imitate it, but it will never be that.
Oh no,
It will never
no,
be
no,
that again. It
no,
will
it
never be
won't.
that
It
again.
won't.
So. Well, buddy, I'm not going to keep you anymore. This is I could literally sit here for 3 more hours and talk until I broke a string, and then I'd make you run to the bathroom real quick and then come back. Um, this is just we probably gonna have to. I know there's probably stories that we haven't even told yet that we may have to just go ahead and plan on doing a part 3 down the road, and
Well, there's
we'll just
some.
keep going.
I'm sitting here at my steel, and I just Misty sends me in here quite a bit. This is my doghouse, and got my TV in here, and I'm thinking about getting a mini fridge. And if I could get a futon bed, I wouldn't have to leave this room. But I love being in here, and I come in here and spend a lot of time in here playing and
Mm,
things. But but I always enjoy talking to you and love you. Man, I don't love you
man,
like a
I
brother. You are my brother, and I love you so much. And you and your family, and your mom and dad and grandmother and
yeah.
aunt and uncles. I mean, man, it just
Well, they
we've
all love
always
you
enjoyed
too.
playing music, but that
Yeah.
family of yours, man, just holds a dear place in my heart.
Well, we everybody in my family feels the same way about you. I mean, it's you know we are family with each other. You know, we
Yeah,
always have been. I mean,
yeah,
I think I've probably known you, played music with you as long as a lot of my family members. You know, it's been since as long as I can remember,
great
and I
times,
don't.
man. I wouldn't take nothing for them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't. I do not take it for granted, and I still don't.
Even though I could use some money, I wouldn't take nothing for them.
That's right. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to, but
That's right.
that's it.
That's
That's
right.
it. Well,
Uh,
man. Well, best of luck. Just keep. If you're hearing this and you want good, honest, good, in tune, correct steel guitar, good singing, all of that, you look up my buddy Mr. Tim Hamilton, and
oh
he
yes,
is.
here's a little sample. There you are.
There it
Give me a
is.
call,
There it
everybody.
is.
Give me.
There's folks. I let me know where to mail the royalty checks for that little tune you just played.
That's
I'll
right. That's
I'll
an original. That's an original. Yeah.
yes, you'll be making tens of dollars on that one, buddy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I love you,
yeah.
pal.
I love you too, man. Thanks a lot.